We talked today about the bicep curls or the bench press for the frontal lobe.
Yes.
That's essentially what freediving is.
Explain that. The bench, you said that earlier on the episode.
Yeah.
The bench press for the frontal lobe.
Technically, it's reappraisal skills. So reappraisal means I have one interpretation of something that happens, but then I can think about that interpretation. So that's metacognition. So I'm observing my thought, and then I get to choose another interpretation that's probably more true, more accurate, and more helpful. So for example, like we were talking about panic earlier, if we start to feel a little bit shaky or unsteady and we appraise that as I'm not okay and something bad is going to happen, then that flood of panic starts to happen more easily. Instead, if we appraise those symptoms, and this is usually after therapy that somebody's had with interoceptive exposures, if those symptoms come up and we reappraise that as, oh, my body's just making an adjustment, doesn't matter, I can just flow through it, then we're not going to have that cascade of panic response. So that's what we call reappraisal. When we're in full limbic system arousal, which is the amygdala and fear response, we cannot think critically. It's very hard to do a reappraisal skill. So freediving is about in real time. And I always say, I don't care who you are on planet Earth. The moment I take you underwater without air, your alarm bells go off. So it's a perfect little like petri dish to feel those alarm bells in real time and then step into those reappraisal skills. I know I'm okay. I know the science. I know that I have tons of air and that I know that I can do this as long as I'm willing to feel uncomfortable. And then that's how the brain learns, and that's how those neurons get stronger.
You were saying earlier, because I've felt the symptoms so many times before, and I've had shallow water blackouts before, pushing myself. But when you think you're out of air, when you start hearing the ringing in your ears, when the black tunnel starts closing in, you actually have much more air than you think you do. So
much more. Yeah, it's just a sensation. And of course, we don't want to push our limits too far because the blackouts, right?
Yeah.
Blackouts are not bad for you. They are not dangerous physiologically. We're made for them. So even with a blackout, you still have time, that your body's protecting you as an enclosed system before something bad happens. But within that time, you sure enough better be pulled up by a buddy and, brought to and whatever. But the goal is to not black out. So we have a lot of space before we black out. People tend to feel those first feelings and then appraise that as I don't have oxygen, and then they abort mission, right? So freediving is about feeling those feelings, but saying like, no, I know the science. That's only CO2 buildup. That has nothing to do with my oxygen levels. So therefore, I get to choose to keep going forward. I will not be tricked by my alarm bells. I'll tell you a story. I take these different groups out. So I do expeditions through Ocean Oriented, whether it's, teams at a company, or last year I was hired by Simplify, which is an amazing veterans organization.
Simplify Fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so we did a whole group of 12 veterans. We did it down in the Keys. So a full ocean-oriented expedition for about 5 days. And so some of these guys, they were missing limbs. So one guy was a double amputee. And, when the lady of Simplify called me and she said, can you do this? I said, yes. And I thought, what have I agreed to, right? Because I couldn't have found anybody online that had done that before. And I was worried, but then I thought, okay, I'm not going to trust those alarm bells. I'm going to say, if we think through this step by step, we can make anything happen, right? And sure enough, we did. And that was one of the most profound ocean-oriented expeditions. If I thought too hard about it, I could come to tears right now because it was just so amazing. And I'm so glad that I didn't let my own alarm bells trick me into saying no, right? Or trick me into perceiving limitations that did not exist. And at our roundtable discussion, we kind of have this little ceremony at the end of the expedition. And one of my questions is, what are you going to take from this? What are you going to leave behind? And we go around and everybody answers. There's this one veteran who was a quieter one of the bunch. And when it got to him, he said something that made all of our jaws just drop. He said, I'm leaving behind here in this ocean, I'm going to leave behind my perceived sense of lack. Because just like I thought I lacked oxygen, I also think that I lack love, money, and time. And now I know that most of that feeling is just a perception. And it does not mean that it's true. I get to choose what's true. So I'm leaving behind that feeling of lack and going forth into my life knowing that I have an abundance of money, time, and love if I just shift some things and seek to find it a little bit more. Yeah. Or find it within myself, right? He had this whole
dive
thing.
a little bit deeper.
Dive a little bit deeper, exactly. And we were just like, oh my gosh. And that's why, ocean oriented isn't just about going on the ocean and having fun. It's not just about learning freediving. Freediving is a vehicle to deeper aspects of yourself and pulling that into all other areas of your world. what we learn there ends up being pretty profound. Even the bad things that happen. One time a lady got sucked in a current and taken out to sea, and I thought, oh my God,
we lost somebody.
What are we going to do? Right. And then last minute, somebody grabbed her. It ended up being one of the most bonding, hilarious things of the trip.
Yeah.
Most times the bad things don't happen. Even if they do, we can navigate them. And I think that's an important take home, is that we are made to pull in resilient pieces to help us get through.
So ocean oriented, that's one of your resilience expeditions. From those struggling with PTSD, panic, obviously it's a scary thing, right? Somebody's going to go underwater and hold their breath and push their limits. You're pushing your limits. Mm-hmm. So these are people that are already dealing with, some of these folks are already dealing with anxiety, panic. What's the process to get them to that point for you?
Yeah. So, when people come on the expedition, they have to be stabilized enough to where that PTSD isn't going to be a star player, right?
It's not going to antagonize it.
Exactly.
That's the right word.
Because in that role, so in the role of ocean oriented, I'm not functioning as a clinical psychologist under my license, which means I'm not diagnosing and I'm not applying evidence-based treatment. That's in my private practice. And I have to be very clear about that, right? But in that role, it's adventure-based. And I used to work for Wounded Warriors, where we went out and did, these adventures. But basically what we're doing is we're using this environment to challenge ourselves, but just like we talked about with exposure therapy, not too much, right? We're not going to push it too much and flood it. So exactly, or make it worse. So everybody, we find the edge, and one person's edge might be here and the other person's edge might be all the way out there, right? But we find the edge and we just work with that edge so that person ends up feeling empowered, ends up being at a greater place than when they began. And we have a team. So my team is trained on how to deal with those sensitivities. And that actually happened on a couple of expeditions where somebody said, I'm overwhelmed, I'm out. And then they sought their safe space. We had a team member with them. And there was actually a lot that came from that too, because everybody has their own individual growth plan and a measure of resilience that we take pre and post trip so that we can see how their resilience scores shift. And then also what they're working on in their individual growth plan.
I like hearing that, because you obviously you work in one world that's evidence-based, and then this other one that's freediving is not evidence-based, but clearly it's helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, mountain biking, jiu-jitsu, like there's all kind of things that's helpful.
I would say it is evidence-based because we know that nature is very powerful and profound.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, what do you want to pull from that is evidence? Maybe it's not protocol-based. So here's a definition. I think we just kind of define something. Protocol-based versus evidence-based.
Yeah, because I would again, like you're nailing it, because I would argue that the methodology and spiritual, biblical living that we use in Mighty Oaks, to me, is completely evidence-based. Like you can convince me it's not evidence-based, but maybe it's broadly protocol-based. And so,
right. And if there could be a broader protocol, then it would be a little bit more recognized, I think. But it still doesn't quite matter, because we know that spiritual approaches are evidence-based in general. So we know that having a spiritual component to your belief system is very helpful in terms of mental health symptoms and resilience. So we do know that in the research. We also do know that spending time in nature is very helpful for those things. We also know that adventure-based sports, especially when done in nature, is very helpful for mental health and resilience and all that health. And so we do know, based in literature, there's just not a protocol around exactly how to do each one.
I think that's the new word, right?
Yeah,
I like that we discovered that.